Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mary Harelkin Bishop, and I am an author. I am the author of the Moose Jaw Tunnels Time Travel Series books, as well as the other books that you see sitting here. I've published 11 books so far, and I thought what I would do is read some of my favorite parts in each of my books. One question that often comes for me is, which is your favorite book that you've written? And honestly, I don't have a favorite book at all. I love all my books because I spend so much time writing them and editing and revising. And so I actually have not a favorite book, but I have favorite parts of each book that I love to read when I go and visit classrooms. So I'm going to start with Tunnels of Time because it was my first book that was ever published. And I'm going to read to you the part where Andrea and her family are in a restaurant in Moose Jaw, and they are getting ready for a banquet, and the restaurant owner comes and talks about the tunnels. And so at the end of this, you will see that Andrea is heading back into time. What were the tunnels used for? Tony wanted to know. And who built them? I should tell you, Tony is Andrea's little brother. We only have theories right now, said the restaurant owner. His eyes were snapping with excitement. Anyone could tell that he loved history and particularly enjoyed telling the story of the Moose Jaw tunnels. His graying hair bounced on his head and as he cleared his throat, and Andrea decided unkindly that he was probably old enough to have lived the stories he was about to tell. One theory is that the Chinese immigrants who came in with the railway companies to build the railways built the tunnels as places to hide when their other work was finished in Canada. They wanted to stay in Canada, but didn't have the head tax, as it was called, to pay for their citizenship. Another theory is that the tunnels were used by the gangsters of the 1920s during Prohibition to hide gamblers and illegal liquor from the police. Mr. Saunders chuckled to himself. Quiet old Moose Jaw was really a swinging town back then. It had quite a wild reputation. In fact, one of its nicknames was Little Chicago, since rumor has it that gangsters did business here. Wow, said Tony. That's cool. I want to see a tunnel. But what's prohibition? Mr. Saunders supplied, was the period of time when alcohol was illegal in many of the states in the United States. Rumor has it that gangsters such as Al Capone traveled on the Soo Line Railway up to Moose Jaw to get liquor and to avoid the police. Supposedly, they used the tunnels to move from place to place unnoticed. Neat, Tony enthused. Now can I see a tunnel? Yes, you sure can, Mr. Saunders answered. Just follow me. Follow you? Tony asked a little warily. He was reluctant to leave the bright, warm safety of the restaurant. Mr. Saunders laughed. Just follow me over to the wall, he said, pointing to the large armoire standing in the corner. We have 2 tunnels right here in this restaurant. Wow, Tony repeated, jumping up from his chair. Let me see. Andrea's parents were anxious to see the tunnels too, and rushed after Tony. Mr. Saunders had pointed first to the corner of the basement, closest to Main Street, and then at one of the back corners. Andrea stared at the corners, but saw nothing. The tunnels were obviously well camouflaged, not visible unless directly pointed out. Her parents and Tony headed for the Main Street tunnel. Andrea reluctantly tagged along, curious but not wanting to appear overeager. Tunnels, she thought, in Moose Jaw? It must be some kind of tourist gimmick, she decided. Just a reason to get ordinary travelers to stop in small-town Saskatchewan and spend a few hard-earned dollars. Tony went in first. Don't tell them what you see, the owner warned mischievously. Let them see it for themselves. I won't, Tony promised. He walked in and out rather quickly, a wow of appreciation forming on his lips. Where's the other one? He asked eagerly. He looked around the restaurant, carefully studying the walls. The first tunnel was fairly visible, if you knew what you were looking for, and if you knew where to look, Andrea decided. The second one was more difficult to find, and Tony's searching eyes discerned nothing unusual. He set off in search of the second tunnel, which Mr. Saunders indicated was just behind a large armoire on the other side of the basement. An armoire is a huge wooden cupboard that is very popular, usually used for things like, sometimes coats maybe, or dishes, that kind of thing. And they actually did find armoires that were hiding tunnels in Moose Jaw, which is pretty cool. While Tony pushed the armoire away from the corner, Andrea waited impatiently for her turn at the first tunnel, digging the toe of her dirty running shoe into the thick gray carpet of the restaurant floor. She noticed with scorn that the carpet wound its way around the corner. It appeared to go right into the tunnel. What kind of joke was this anyway? No authentic tunnel would have carpet in it. Andrea was last behind both parents and watched on comfortably as each person went into the tunnel, oohed and awed again over the mystery, and came back out with a little conspiratorial smile. She wasn't impressed with this game. What could they be seeing that caused such delight on their faces? It seemed silly and nonsensical. "Are you sure you didn't build these tunnels as a publicity stunt for your restaurant?" Andrea rudely asked Mr. Saunders over her shoulder as she rushed into the tunnel. Her intention was to rush right back out again, cool and nonchalant. But things didn't quite work out that way. Andrea was in such a hurry that she didn't hear, or perhaps she just didn't heed, Mr. Saunders' warning to slow down. She rounded the corner of the entrance to the tunnel at a fast pace and crashed directly into what looked to be her own reflection. It was a mirror. That was Andrea's last thought as lights began to flash before her eyes. Waves of sound seemed to pound her body. Fluorescent beams of bright light washed over her. Legs suddenly weak, Andrea sank to the floor. She felt the sensation of movement, as if she were traveling at high speeds through vacuous space. She heard running feet and voices calling her name from afar. It was dark, so black she couldn't see her hands reach up to rub her pounding head. The ground felt cool and damp, even in her thick overalls. Andrea tried to get up, but found herself frozen to the ground. She put her hands on the floor to push herself into a sitting position. Gravel moved under her body. Where was the carpet? She wondered. She should be lying on the warm, thick carpet of the restaurant, not this cold, damp earth. Suddenly something was pulling her arm, drawing her further into the tunnel. "Let go of me," Andrea called out, trying to free her arm. The thing on the other end had a strong grip and pulled her more fully into the tunnel, dragging her every inch of the way. That's one of my favorite parts to read to classes, especially boys and girls who haven't read the book yet, because it's so exciting. I know that they are going to want to know what happens to Andrea next. So I will read another part in a later video. Keep watching for these little videos as they keep popping up, and keep reading. Talk to you soon.